The Easter Chipmunk is an Alvin and the Chipmunks short film from 1995. This is directed by Walt Kubiak, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was a fun concept, very well animated, not completely predictable. In fact, there were a lot of things that happened in this that I most certainly hadn't anticipated, but there were a couple of things that I think were maybe a little obvious, but in general, I thought the narrative was pretty well done. This is, of course, set around Easter, and the colour palette often reflects that. Not always, but we do have a lot of traditional, very bright, candy colours, definitely a delicious colour palette a lot of the time. And Alvin seems to get it into his head that his grandfather was actually the Easter chipmunk, and that the first Easter bunny wasn't a rabbit, it was a chipmunk, and it was his grandfather. And the film is about him exploring this. And he has some good reasons for thinking why this would be the case, but whether or not he's barking up the wrong tree, I'm not going to say. But it was a fun concept. Easter is definitely right through this, at least in terms of Easter bunnies and chocolate eggs. So that part of it I thought worked really well. The pacing was really great. The final few scenes, I won't say what they are, but I loved them. I thought they were tremendous fun. Everything moved in a really fun direction, and I had a great time with this one. That's not unusual. I do love Alvin and the Chipmunks, but sometimes with some of the films, especially the ones released around this time, they're maybe not as engaging as they could be. This one, I actually think I enjoyed it thoroughly from start to finish. And then you throw in the really attractive animation as well, and it's really quite delightful. So if you're a fan of Alvin and the Chipmunks and you haven't seen the Easter Chipmunk, then I think it's absolutely worth watching. Fun concept, very well executed, great cast of characters. Obviously we have Alvin, Simon, Theodore and Dave. And then we have some other characters who are all really great. The animation is beautiful. The pacing of the narrative is great. I have no complaints. It might be one of my favourite Alvin films from around this time. I'm not including the more recent live action ones, but in terms of the short films that were released in the last century, yeah, maybe, could be. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. The Easter Chipmunk is definitely a fun idea, and one that I think is worth checking out if you're a fan of Alvin and the Chipmunks.